preoccupations and issues with respect to women's issues, not particularly one with respect to prostate cancer. But I took note of the general tone of our presentation because I remembered myself saying at another forum that the 21st century belongs to women. The 21st century belongs to women. And the trust of the PBT Civics budget for 2014, which it speaks to, where we speak to improving life for all Guyanese. With respect to the question of the largest chunk of the budget going towards issues which primarily affect women and revolve around women, this is a position, this is an approach that we have always undertaken. So the thrust of the budget, a better Guyana for all Guyanese. The content of the budget goes along with our overall thrust in improving our country, improving the life, the living, the status of women and children. Because we think, based on the appropriations in the budget, which are related to women's issues, that this is the most safest and productive use of the resources out of the public sector. Mr. Speaker, some way they say that in order to move forward, you need to go back to reconcile your past before you can return to move forward in tranquility. And I believe, given our experience of last year's hijinks, cussing out, quarrels, unseeming events in this honorable house, that perhaps we all need to look back to the experience of last year and the presentation of the 2013 budget, that we now have to reconcile that just recent past, and that we have to take the opportunity now to take our country forward in tranquility. Our country does not need any more trouble. We do not need any more trouble. And I believe, and I hope, somehow, despite some things which were said, that we have this great opportunity now to take good consideration of where we who represent the best of our country has to offer at the level of politics and government and governance. We who are in this, and some of you, Mr. Speaker, at the close of the new honorable member's speech last night, a woman too, and I welcome her discussion and engagement last night. You talked about the star being born. Yeah. I think maybe you're all stars in this chamber. And this is a star chamber. Yes, this is a star chamber.
Remember, in ancient times, the star chamber had a certain connotation.
So, a star chamber where the best that the Guyanese people have to offer, in terms, the best that the Guyanese people have to offer, in terms of politics, lawyering, economics, the best people that we have to offer on all sides, from all areas of our country, are represented in this chamber. The Guyanese stars in the chamber are in this chamber with respect to this fact. And so, Mr. Speaker, I think we need to take the position and reconcile our past. And Mr. Speaker, if I go back to last year's problems, If I go back to last year's problems to try to reconcile ourselves, to remember ourselves with respect to what occurred last year, maybe I should only speak with respect to my ministry. But I recall that we had, with respect to our budget, $5.6 billion of budget cuts carried out, proposed, coming from the opposition benches. Both the APLU and the AFC. Oh, PLU. $5.6 billion, Mr. Speaker. There were very, very unkind cuts in the budget. Mr. Speaker, of 2013, I wouldn't want to say that there was malice aforethought. I wouldn't want to say perhaps that it wasn't properly considered. Perhaps people were all excited again about the one-seat majority and all of these things. But there were a lot of very unkind cuts. There were transformative projects which were cut. We speak particularly to the issues of the airport project, $5.35 billion cut. We speak to the issue of the civil aviation, $80 million cut with respect to safer and improved landing facilities and instrumentation. And perhaps, Mr. Speaker, the unkindest cut of all was the cut to hinterland airstrips. The cut to hinterland airstrips. Members in this house are coming now in this house to talk about hinterland airstrips. They're talking about their love for indigenous people. They're talking about how our hinterland residents have been suffering from poor airstrips, poor services, aero services, and all of these things. They've had an attack of contrition. And so, Mr. Speaker, I'm glad that they have come to a position now where they are prepared now to support, I believe, one, the transformative projects, including two, the important matter of hinterland airstrips for our Amerindian people. Mr. Speaker, again, Dr. Ashley Singh and his team have presented to us a significant budget in extremely trying circumstances with respect to our country's development. Against a background, regional and international, and I think the head of the IMF only a few days ago, Ms. Christine Lagarde, was speaking to how for Europe, particularly in the international economy, the outlook, the future was bleak and will continue to be bleak for the next few years, particularly speaking to the questions of low or no growth. Mr. Speaker, in spite of all the criticisms, in spite of the threats, and I would say I would have to regret that it seems to be the modus operandi of the opposition always, to have our country in a state of continuous stress, in a state of continuous uproar, in a state of continuous trouble and worry. Perhaps because this is how they benefit, this is how they continue their existence in politics. But despite of all of these things, in spite of all of these things, Mr. Speaker, the PPP, Civic, President Ramatar with his Minister of Finance, the Cabinet, the people who work hard every day have delivered again to Guyana the 8th year of continuous, successive, sustained growth at 5% over to our country. Mr. Speaker, the people who plant the rice, and I was going up on the West Coast for bees the other day, and it struck me that people were smiling on the road, that the rice crop was coming in, everybody seemed to be smiling. I noted that people were happy and active and were busy because the rice crop was coming in. I noted too, in all the communities, the mining communities, Bartica, I was recently at Cameron and in Bamadai, that there has been a dramatic transformation of the skylines of those communities and the size of those communities and the conditions of the communities as a result of their efforts in the mining sector and the services sector related there. We have our struggles in Chile, but that is our struggle to deal with. We have the continued efforts in the bauxite sector. And so, with respect to the opposition attempts to dismantle the economy, to throw it into reverse, to throw our economy into reverse, and I went back to last year, the people of Guyana, the Guyanese people of all races, ethnicities, religions, and political persuasions have given the opposition attempts to dismantle our economy and to continue negative growth in our economy have given the answer. And the answer they have given is a positive answer that they want to see their country develop and grow and to prosper, and that they expect from us here in this honorable house the kind of engagement which will continue to see improvements in lives and living so that we can hand on to the future generations a better life for them, if not for ourselves even. Mr. Speaker, I therefore want to congratulate the Minister of Finance again for his diligent work, for his risk-averse approach, delivering to the question of the financial management, for his stewardship of the economy of our country. I want to give him all the accolades, and we should give him all the accolades, give him and his team all the accolades with respect to this matter, because this is the most important matter with respect to how we move forward. How do we continue to assure food security? How do we continue to improve employment and living and a better life for people? Mr. Speaker, with respect to this year's budget, I have to report that we did indeed have, for the year 2013, a fairly difficult year. It is true that when we had all the problems in the House, when we had the fights, A.G. Nandlal, Minister of Finance, Ashley Singh and others making presentations, when we had the resort to the courts from all sides of the House, we had a position for a time where there was a lot of confusion, where investors, contractors, ordinary Guyanese were not sure as to whether we could sustain our country, as to whether we should continue to work. There was a slow startup of projects. There were problems with respect to how we synergize and get our projects going. And so overall, with an $80 billion provision for last year, we were only able to achieve 84% of our program for 2030. For 2014, we are being provisioned with $22.4 billion, which is a $4.4 billion increase with respect to the budget. And this is a percentage increase of 34.2%. And we would be hard pressed, but we'll work at the will of it this year to make sure we would fulfill the anticipations, the expectations of our government and our people. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, with respect to bridges, if I may start with that activity, we know that Demerara Harbour Bridge is a significant linkage between the east and west bank of Demerara. The bridge has done quite a bit of work with respect to its rehabilitation and maintenance. I have said to the Honourable House before, and I heard Mr. Harman to say last night that the bridge will not last its term. I had pointed out that this bridge is intended to last another 7 years. So 1 year later, I would say that we have 6 more years for the continuation and the proper maintenance of the bridge. The bridge is in fine condition for its age, from since 1978, I believe, and the bridge is under good management and maintenance. Mr. Speaker, the total number of vehicles which cross this bridge for 2013 is just over 6 million. 6 million vehicles have crossed the bridge going both ways in 2013. This is a 5.5% increase on the previous year, and we expect that this number may increase for 2014. We are looking at ways to reduce the loading, particularly perhaps by encouraging traffic to be parked across at particular locations. And we're looking particularly at perhaps putting in place additional water taxi stations on the Demerara River to optimize the crossings at peak hours of the Demerara River. Mr. Speaker, the bridge for 2013 has had a $479 million income revenue, an increase of 11% over the previous year, and a total of $367 million, a 5% difference, and it is currently carrying a surplus of $113 million, which is being used for ongoing maintenance of the bridge. With respect to a new Demerara River crossing, honourable members may be aware, Mr. Speaker, that we put out expressions of interest for a new public-private partnership to get proposals for a new crossing. We have had 23 expressions, and the National Procurement and Tender Board Administration is working on a committee to do the evaluation of the bids, of the expressions of interest, that is, so that we could go forward with some form, some arrangement which would allow us to have a new bridge across the Demerara River in 6 years' time. The three proposed locations 3 proposed locations. This does not shut out any other locations. Conceptually, the 3 proposed locations are Borsil, Houston, Schooner, Pixels Hall, Pacentia, and New Hope. For 2014, there is a $338 million which have been allocated for capital works, 2 new extra large pontoons, fabrication buoys and connected posts, supply of sheaves and tackles, rehabilitation of pontoons and hydraulic systems, so that we could continue to have this bridge in a safe operating condition over the next few years. Honorable members may be aware that we have had a couple of collisions in 2013 with respect to the bridge. For marine traffic, these matters are being attended to, but we are improving the lighting, the bollards and piling systems, cluster pile systems, which will tend to prevent serious damage to the bridge, which will bring it out of service. Roads and bridges on the international lending agencies, Mr. Speaker and honorable members, these relate to the IDB, the CDB, and the European Union. We've had 9 bridges and 11 culverts successfully completed in 2013, 2 on the East Bank and 9 on the West Coast of these public road alignments. These works were particularly done and interestingly done by national contractors, Caris Engineering Inc. and Dalit Enterprise. And these works came in on budget and on time. Came in on budget and on time. And I want to salute these 2 national firms, and you know we are encouraging the greater involvement of national firms in larger heavy construction work that we undertake. We are very happy with this result, and we want to be able to involve and encourage more and more heavy engineering enterprises by our national construction companies in this work. Mr. Speaker, we have had significant issues with respect to the road projects. The third road project we did have as also to the East Bank, Demerara Road widening, and the East Coast Demerara Road widening. We have had significant issues and problems with respect to the question of utilities, their location, their removal, the funding for drainage to stabilize the sides of the road, and overall the inclement weather and unseasonable weather in 2013 impacted negatively on our ability to finish these works in time. We have also had a scarcity of materials. There has been a delayed delivery of materials, particularly of construction stone. The quarry sector has to improve its production by some 40% for domestic production to meet our national road and national construction needs, not only for the heavy infrastructure, but also for housing and other domestic works. And so we've had to encourage the resort to the importation of stones from Dominica, St. Vincent, and other places to try to fall back the delays in our schedules with respect to these roads. But I repeat, and we've had discussions with the contractors recently, particularly in East Bank, Demerara. Now that we have the weather, we've had discussions with respect to this 5.4 kilometer widening. This is a $17.2 million effort. DIPCON Engineering Services have lot 1 for $8 million. Geico was for $5.8 million, and BK International for Lot 3 for $3.4 million. We anticipate that the entire 5.4 kilometer section of this road, the entire project, will have significant completion by the end of this year. We are undertaking, Mr. Speaker, an effort to improve the Sheriff Street Mandela Avenue for 7.2 kilometers in length, the public road. The pre-qualification of contractors for the civil works is in progress. We have had consultations at the local level and the technical levels with respect to this project. We expect that actual works will commence in June of this year, and this effort will be funded by the IDB for 25 million United States dollars approximately. The other important project which we are undertaking, we recently launched with the Caribbean Development Bank, the West Coast Demerara Freedom-Hooker Parika roadway project. The design has been completed. The pre-qualification of contractors to execute the civil works is in progress, and the works are expected to commence around the latter half of 2014. Funding is toward $4.2 million approved from the Caribbean Development Bank. Mr. Speaker, there has been an ongoing discussion with respect to the East Bank Berbice Road. We had initially anticipated that early in this year, late last year, early in this year, we would have started works with respect to the East Bank Berbice Road. Because of the funding requirements with respect to the design that is required for this road, changes with respect to the allocation of funding to the funding for the road were made so as to be able to realize the design that is required for the type of road. This work for this road will be done at the beginning of the fourth quarter in 2014, and of course will bring much needed relief to the persons on the East Bank Berbice and open up the agricultural lands there so that we can set aside a lot of the arguments and quarrels and upsets with respect to the anticipated scheduled dates for the finishing of this road.